This video is an introduction to the Gravity Forms plugin on your WordPress site. We'll go over some of the basic features and functions of this plugin. The plugin is used to create forms on your site. These forms can be used to collect information from your users, sign them up for mailing list, and even take online payments. The example we're looking at here might be used as a contact form on your website. Every area the user can interact with or enter data into is known as a field. Gravity Forms contains many different types of fields for creating your forms. For example, the name field is a simple text field. Any text can be entered here. The email field is an advanced field. Advanced fields are expecting a specific type of data and will verify the data entered is correct. For example, if I were to try to submit the form using this, the form would fail because this is not a valid email address format. The next field is a drop-down. This is one of several fields that allow your users to pick a choice among a series of options. In this example, the user could pick the department that they wish to contact, and when the form is submitted, an email will be sent to that department based on the choice made here. This allows you to make one contact form for your site instead of having to make a separate contact form for every department. The field that we're actually using for the message is a paragraph text field. This allows the user to enter longer strings of text. Finally, we have another example of a field that allows the user to make a choice. This is a radio button field. Radio button fields only allow one of the choices to be selected. This field also allows us to demonstrate something built into Gravity Forms called conditional logic. In this case, we're asking if the user would like to receive a phone call. If they don't, there's no reason to ask for the telephone number. Using conditional logic, we can display the phone number field if they answer yes. This phone field is another example of an advanced field. When the form is submitted, it will verify that the user entered a valid phone format. We'll go over the conditional logic a little later in the video. When the form is submitted, the user will receive a confirmation message, and the emails will be sent to the recipients of the form. Gravity Forms can be accessed from the admin menu on your site. It also adds an item to the admin bar. You can access this item from anywhere on the site. This is a list of all the forms on the site. From here, you can edit them, look at their entries, and make other changes. To add a new form, click the Add New button. The first thing you'll need to do is give the form a title. The form description is optional and explains the purpose of the form. Click Create Form. And we're ready to begin creating our form. The plugin displays instructions on how to create a form over here. They'll remain visible until you place the first field on your form. To add a field to your form, click the field you wish to add. You can expand the field to see the options available. This is a single-line text field and probably the simplest field you can add. You can use this field for just about any type of information. The first option is the field label. This is the label that will appear above the field on the form. Next, we have the description. The text in the description will appear below the field. You can use this to give specific instructions to the user about the field. The input mask lets you specify the format of the data entered in this field. There are a number of presets here, but most of these exist as advanced fields. You can specify your own custom format. For example, let's say you are trying to collect an account number consisting of 3 letters and 4 numbers. The field now has the formatting we specify. It will require me to put letters in the first 3 positions and numbers in the last 4. For more details on how to create a custom mask, use the Help feature. You can also specify the maximum number of characters allowed in the field. A line is added below the field to let the user know how many characters are remaining. This can be a good idea because it will help keep your database smaller. If the field is required, then the form cannot be submitted without the field being filled in. No duplicates allows you to specify that the field cannot have the same value as any form previously submitted. This can be handy if you're requiring the user to submit some unique piece of information, such as picking a user ID. Next, we have the options under the Appearance tab. As you'd expect, this controls the way the field appears on the form. The first item is the placeholder. The placeholder text is added inside the field. This is another way you can indicate to your users what information you're looking for or what format you'd like that information in. When the user starts typing in the field, the placeholder text is replaced by their input. Field label visibility allows you to hide your field label, and the description placement allows you to choose whether you want it above or below the input field. Gravity Forms has built-in error messages when a field fails to validate. You can override that default message by adding your own error message here. It will appear under the field if that field fails to validate. You can add a CSS class to the field here. You would only do this if you were planning on writing your own custom style sheets for the form. Finally, we get to the field size. There are 3 sizes available, and these control the horizontal width of the field. A large field will always fill its space 100%. The medium and small fields will fill a smaller percentage based on the width of the screen that the form is being viewed on. Finally, we have the Advanced tab. There's a couple of items here you'll want to be aware of. The first is default value. If you place content in here, it will become the default data entered for that field. If the user doesn't change the value before submitting the form, this is what will be used. This is also where you'll enable conditional logic for the field. We'll be going over that in another video. Different elements can also add other items to the Advanced tab. Since this is a text input, for example, it has Enable Password. What this would do is obscure the text as though you were entering your information into a password field. It's always worth checking the Advanced tab for the element you're using to see if any options have been added. Please take a look at our additional video that goes over the standard and advanced fields available for use on your form. You'll find the options for your form under the Settings tab. First, we have the form title and form description, which were entered when you created the form. Next, we have the form layout options. By default, the labels are above the field, but you can left or right align them. If you enter a description for your field, it's normally put below the inputs, but you can choose to place it above. The sublabel placement is for the advanced fields and can also be placed above the field. Finally, you can add a class name to the entire form. You might want to do this if you're going to write some custom CSS to style the form. Next, we have the settings for the form button. This allows you to change the message that appears on the Submit button, or even change it to an image. You can also enable conditional logic. This would make the Submit button appear only if your rule was followed. Save and Continue allows the user to partially fill out the form and then come back at a later time to complete it. We have seen problems with this, so I wouldn't recommend using it. You can also place some restrictions on the form. You can limit the number of times the form is filled out, either in total or by a specific time period. You can also give a custom message when no more entries are allowed. You can also pick the date and time that a form is visible on your site. The start date and end dates can be specified here, and you can specify a custom message before the form is visible and after it's expired. Finally, you can require that users be a logged-in member of your site before they can fill out the form. Adding an anti-spam honeypot will help cut down on automated submissions, and animated transitions add a nice visual effect to the form. Next, you have the confirmation. This is the action the form takes when the user submits the form. The default is to hide the form and display a text message. You also have the ability to redirect users to any page on your site or to a URL of your choosing. Next, we have the form notifications. Notifications will send an email when the form is submitted. By default, the forms are created with an admin notification. This notification will send an email to the site administrator and will include all fields that were entered on the form. You can create multiple notifications for each form. For example, you could create a notification that goes back to the user that submitted the form, or you could even use conditional logic to determine who the email would be sent to based on the answers the user gives on the form. We're going to go over notifications in detail on a follow-up video. The Entries tab will show all submissions made on the form. To view a submission in detail, hover over the first field and click View. This section here will show all fields that were submitted by the user. You can change which fields are visible by clicking the cog icon on the far right. One of the fields I would suggest adding is the entry date. Click the field and drag it over to the left column. If you want to remove a field, drag it to the right column. Click Save to save your changes. And now you can see the date that the form was submitted is now the first field in the list. Finally, we have the Preview tab. This will present a simplified view of your form without any of the formatting present on the site applied. It can be useful to see the positioning of the elements on the form, but if you want to see what the form actually looks like to the user, you're going to want to take a look at it actually placed on a page. Let's take a look at how we do that. To add a form to your site, edit the page you want to add the form to. Go to the Elements tab and search for Gravity, and drag the classic Gravity Forms element onto the page. The drop-down will let you pick the form that you want to display, and you have options to show or hide the title and description of the form. You should leave Enable Ajax on. Save your page, and you can now view the form on the page.